There's something especially unsettling about a crime that never gets solved. No arrest, no trial, no final answer. Just a name, or sometimes not even that, left behind in headlines, police files, and the memories of those who lived through it. In this video, we're counting down the top 5 serial killers who were never caught. These are cases that span decades and even centuries, each one leaving behind a trail of fear, unanswered questions, and one chilling truth. The person responsible was never identified or brought to justice. What makes these cases even more disturbing isn't just what happened, but how close investigators may have come, and how somehow the killer slipped away every single time. Some taunted police, some vanished without a trace. Others may have lived out the rest of their lives completely unnoticed. This isn't a traditional deep dive. This is a ranked countdown where each case reveals a different kind of mystery, a different kind of failure, and a different reason why the truth was never uncovered. From modern unsolved cases to some of the most infamous killers in history, these stories continue to haunt investigators and true crime experts to this day. So, starting at number 5, we begin with a case that shocked a quiet city in the American Southwest, one that didn't even come to light until years after the crimes had already happened. Let's begin. Number 5, the West Mesa bone collector. In early February of 2009, a routine search in Albuquerque uncovered something no one expected. A woman walking her dog near the West Mesa, a stretch of desert on the city's outskirts, stumbled upon what appeared to be a human bone. What followed was one of the largest and most disturbing discoveries in New Mexico's history. As investigators began digging in the sandy terrain, they uncovered a burial ground. Over the course of several days, the remains of 11 women were found scattered across the area. All of them had been buried in shallow graves, hidden in plain sight in a location that overlooked growing suburban development. The victims were later identified as women who had gone missing between the years 2001 and 2005. Many of them had connections to vulnerable lifestyles, including struggles with addiction, which may have made them targets, and may also explain why their disappearances didn't immediately draw widespread attention. What made this case even more chilling was the pattern. Investigators quickly realized this wasn't random. The victims were found in a relatively small area, suggesting a single offender who was familiar with the land and confident enough to return multiple times. Despite years of investigation, no one has ever been charged. Police pursued several persons of interest over time, including individuals with violent histories in the area, but none of those leads resulted in enough evidence to make an arrest. The case became known as the work of the West Mesa bone collector, a name that reflects both the scale of the crime and the haunting nature of its discovery. To this day, the identity of the killer remains unknown, and perhaps the most unsettling part. Whoever committed these crimes was able to operate undetected for years, leaving behind a hidden graveyard that went unnoticed until it was discovered by chance. A killer who blended into the background and then vanished without a trace. Up next at number 4, we move to a case from decades earlier, one centered around a single name whispered through a city, a name that was never confirmed, and a killer who was never identified. Number 4, Bible John. In the late 1960s, a series of murders in Glasgow left an entire city on edge. The victims were all young women who had spent their evening at the Barrowland Ballroom, a popular dance hall known for its music and lively crowds. Between the years 1968 and 1969, 3 women, Patricia Docker, Jemima McDonald, and Helen Puddock, were killed after nights out at the same venue. While the crimes occurred months apart, investigators quickly noticed striking similarities that pointed to a single offender. The man believed responsible became known as Bible John. The nickname came from chilling witness accounts, particularly from the sister of Helen Puddock, who had shared a taxi ride with the suspect shortly before the murder. She described a well-dressed man who spoke at length about religion, frequently quoting from the Bible and expressing strict moral views. He reportedly criticized certain lifestyles and made unsettling comments about marriage and faith. This interaction would become one of the most detailed encounters anyone ever had with the suspected killer, and yet it still wasn't enough to identify him. Each victim had been approached at the ballroom, suggesting that the killer was confident, social, and able to blend in easily. He didn't force his way into these situations. Instead, he gained trust, only for the night to end in violence. Despite an extensive investigation, including interviews, sketches, and public appeals, no one was ever definitively identified as Bible John. Over the years, multiple suspects have been considered, but none have been conclusively linked through evidence. What makes this case especially haunting is how close authorities may have come. The surviving witness provided a clear description. There were timelines, locations, even a direct conversation. And yet, the man at the center of it all simply disappeared. No confirmed identity, no arrest, no closure. A killer who walked through crowded dance halls, spoke openly about his beliefs, and then vanished into history. Up next at number 3, we move to one of the most infamous unsolved cases of all time. One where the killer didn't just evade capture. He openly challenged those trying to catch him. Number 3, the Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer terrorized the San Francisco Bay Area in the late 1960s and early 1970s, leaving a trail of fear that still captivates true crime enthusiasts today. Unlike other serial killers of the time, the Zodiac wasn't just elusive. He seemed to taunt authorities and the public. Between December 1968 and October 1970, at least 5 confirmed victims were attacked in Northern California, though the killer claimed responsibility for more than 30. He often struck at night, targeting couples in isolated areas, but he also used letters and cryptic messages to communicate with local newspapers. The killer's communications were unlike anything law enforcement had seen. He sent letters to the San Francisco Chronicle, San Francisco Examiner, and Vallejo Times-Herald, including 4 complex ciphers. Some of these ciphers have been solved decades later, while others remain mysterious, adding to the chilling legend of a man who sought attention as much as he instilled fear. Witnesses provided varying descriptions, making it nearly impossible to pinpoint a suspect. Despite sketches, tips, and numerous investigations over decades, no one was ever definitively identified as the Zodiac. His last confirmed letter arrived in January 1974, leaving authorities with a mix of cryptic messages, unsolved ciphers, and an unsolved case that would become one of the most infamous in American history. What makes the Zodiac Killer uniquely terrifying is his intellect and control. He didn't just disappear, he manipulated the narrative, leaving clues and riddles to frustrate those trying to catch him. Next, at number 2, we travel back over a century to the foggy streets of London, where an unknown figure became one of history's most notorious and chilling unsolved killers. Number 2, Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper is one of history's most infamous and chilling unsolved serial killers. Operating in London's Whitechapel district in the late 19th century, this unknown killer struck fear into the hearts of residents in autumn of 1888. His victims were primarily women, and his attacks were carried out in the shadows of the city's narrow, foggy streets, creating a legacy of terror that persists to this day. The case was notable for the gruesome nature of the crimes and the fact that the killer was never caught, despite intense media coverage and massive police investigations. Residents, journalists, and detectives all became part of the manhunt, yet the Ripper managed to vanish into the city night after each attack. Letters allegedly sent by the killer to the press, some signed as Jack the Ripper, taunted authorities and fueled public hysteria. Even more chilling is the meticulous planning attributed to him. Each crime scene suggested someone who was both calculated and bold, striking in public areas, yet slipping away without a trace. Over the years, hundreds of theories have emerged, with suspects ranging from local residents to high-profile figures. Yet no definitive proof has ever been found. Jack the Ripper's crimes have left an enduring imprint on true crime history, inspiring countless studies, books, and documentaries. His identity remains unknown, making him a haunting reminder of the dangers that can lurk in the most crowded of cities. And finally, number 1, the Bible Belt serial killer, also known as the Redhead murders. This unsettling series of unsolved killings spanned across multiple states in the United States, primarily in the southern and central regions, throughout the early 1980s to the early 1990s. The victims were often red-haired women, many of whom were young and vulnerable, discovered along highways or remote locations, making it clear that a serial predator was at work. The investigation was complicated by the geographical spread of the murders, with bodies turning up in states such as Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. Law enforcement agencies struggled to connect the dots, and the killer's identity has never been confirmed. Some victims were identified years later through advancements in forensic science, but many remain unknown, their cases cold to this day. What makes these murders particularly chilling is the methodical nature of the crimes. The killer appeared to be highly organized, targeting women in vulnerable circumstances, leaving little evidence behind, and moving across state lines to evade capture. Despite extensive investigations, tips, and forensic breakthroughs over the decades, the case remains open, a haunting reminder of the people who slipped through the cracks of the justice system. The Redhead murders continue to perplex experts and haunt communities along the highways where these women were found. This case, more than any other, demonstrates the terrifying reality of a serial killer who remained elusive, striking fear yet evading justice. As we reach the end of our countdown, it's clear that the top 5 serial killers we've explored, Bible John, the West Mesa bone collector, the Zodiac Killer, Jack the Ripper, and the Bible Belt serial killer, Redhead murders, share a chilling commonality. They all remain unidentified, their crimes unsolved, and their victims' families left without answers. Each case spans decades and continents, from the streets of Glasgow in 1968 to the foggy alleys of London in 1888, to the deserts and highways of the United States across the 20th century, showing how elusiveness and meticulous planning allowed these predators to evade capture. Despite advances in forensic science, DNA analysis, and criminal profiling, these killers have remained shadows in history, leaving only fear, mystery, and unanswered questions in their wake. The stories we've discussed are a haunting reminder of the limits of law enforcement and the dark corners of human behavior. They challenge investigators and true crime enthusiasts alike to keep asking questions, studying evidence, and seeking justice for victims who may never have had a voice. While we may never know the full truth behind these killings, examining them shines a light on the patterns, clues, and potential mistakes that could help solve future cases. It reminds us that even in the most complex and perplexing crimes, vigilance, memory, and persistence are crucial tools in uncovering the truth. Thank you for joining this countdown of the top 5 serial killers who were never caught. Their stories are terrifying, but they also emphasize the importance of remembering the victims, studying the cases, and continuing to search for answers wherever they may lie. If you want more explorations into unsolved mysteries, chilling cold cases, and the dark side of human nature, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for our next deep dive.